Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rafaela. I'm the editorial coordinator at Architecture Hunter. It's wonderful to have you all here for another session of our monthly webinar series where we bring together architects from different contexts to share their work, perspectives, and processes. As many of you may know, each month at Architecture Hunter, we explore a different theme that guides our conversations and content. This month, we're looking at spaces of belonging, hospitality, and community, and I think it's one of the most human themes we've explored so far, because at the core of it, it's a question that cuts across every scale of architecture. What does it actually mean to design a space where people feel they belong? Whether it's a house, a hotel, a pavilion, or a public space, hospitality isn't just a program, it's an intention. And today we have two very special guests whose work speaks to that very directly from different angles. We're really happy to have both of them here with us. Before we begin, just a quick reminder, please send your questions through the Q&A tab throughout the presentations. After each talk, I'll be moderating a live Q&A session with each of our speakers. And our first guest today is Pablo Pérez Palacios, founder of PPAA, based in Mexico City. Pablo studied architecture at the Universidad Iberoamericana and at the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in Barcelona, and holds a Master of Science in Advanced Architectural Design from Columbia University in New York. His work has been recognized internationally, and he has been invited as a visiting professor and workshop leader at institutions such as the Fay Jones School of Architecture and Design and the Porto Academy in Portugal. What draws us to Pablo's practice is the way his projects engage with context, not just physically, but culturally. And this is actually something that we got to experience firsthand. We had the chance to visit the PPAA studio in Mexico City last year and meet part of the team, and it really stay with us, and we've been fans of their work for a while, and having Pablo here today feels like a natural extension of that conversation that we started last year. So welcome, Pablo.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you all the team behind Architectural Hunter. It's an honor to be here and an honor to share the space also with Renata. So thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you. You can now start your presentation.
Great. I'm gonna share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. So let's start. First of all, again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, as you mentioned, spaces of belonging is not only an essential part of our work, but it's really something that we should achieve in every project. Our conception of architecture is grounded in an understanding of the relationship of each individual established with the environment. This could be natural environment, the urban environment. Is really about how we connect with spaces and how those spaces make us feel. So I'm going to start by saying that we understand our environment almost as a starting point of each project. Sorry, 1 second. So all these images that you're seeing, which are obviously nature, are taken by us or by anyone from my team. It's really the source of inspiration. It's an essential part of our practice, and it's really the most inspiring of all architecture, if you want to call it like that. We still haven't been in a place where you can be under the shadow of a tree, feeling the breeze, and feel as comfortable as there. So that's something we really want to achieve. And this is present in every type of natural environment, but it also has a very curious approach in a urban environment. These are images taken, the first two in Mexico City. One is someone taking like part of the sidewalk by adding these water bottles to see, okay, this part of the sidewalk is mine, and they want to keep it clean, which is something crazy. The other one is just a store putting out like electronics that they need to fix on top of an armadillo to say, I mean, there's always a way to find belonging, and it's present in every type of architecture, including this. No, I mean, there's full of contrast. There's places where I took that in Thailand, where there's like literally an elephant walking by next to a car. People going out to the balcony in the pandemic, craving for a connection with urban environment, in order to create this belonging. With that, there's also a source of inspiration in terms of how we create spaces that really belong and connect to the environment. And another source of inspiration, such as nature, is the architecture made without architects. This might sound a bit contradictory, but it's really inspiring. These are a few images taken in the south of Mexico, in Yucatan, where the climate is very extreme in terms of super hot. And this is just using natural resources next to the site, creating a platform that allows the air to flow. And it's really not even, it's accidentally amazing, no? And another element about architecture without architects is all these constructions that are made with functionality behind, connection with the environment, and really projects that make sense. Now, this is a water deposit in the desert. These are a few images of auto-construction or self-built projects in places where the weather has its challenges in terms of heat, and so it's very punctual opening. So all these that might seem not that special is really a source of interest and inspiration, or even this urban field for hand squash, which is really the result of the need of our structure that holds that wall. So all that in connection to, at the end, the only thing that matters is the final user, and especially nowadays and even now in the recent times where AI, everything is connected. We're having a conversation via Zoom, and I don't know, everywhere in the world can be connected. The dialogues between intentions, users, and contents needs to be brought back to the conversation. And all these images were taken by me on our first project in China, and I have millions of them. I just took them as I was walking by or on the subway or whatever, and I took literally more than 1,000 of people looking at their phones without even noticing that I was taking an image or a picture of them. So that's something that we need to rethink strongly about, how we create an architecture that really connects people in a real way, in a physical way, because this is something that has become a challenge, and it shouldn't be left away. No, it's really about creating an atmosphere, a space that really makes you belong and connect and makes you feel something. With that, and I'm going to jump quickly through examples of a few of our projects. We have three main concepts behind our architecture, and one is the unbuilt space. For us, the unbuilt space is even as important as the built space. No, the patio, the balcony, that space that we left unbuilt, it's actually the place that generates and brings value to the built architecture. Of course, everything is through an idea, and that idea is based on conceptualization and constant experimentation. And at the end, but not least important, is time. Us as architects, we normally think that we finish the architecture when we finish the project or when it's built, but it's actually the opposite. It really starts when we, the architects, finish our work, and that's why it's really important. No, good architecture should belong to time in a very decent way. It should even be better as time passes. And it's really the big challenge. We put it to test once it's finished and once it starts being used. So I'm going to jump through a few projects when all these ideas of how we do an architecture that belongs and brings back hospitality in all of their senses. So one was the nature and the site. This is a project in Valle de Bravo that it's a house for a client that has a lot of events and wants to have a platform to host all those happenings. So after a few days on site and analyzing, we decide to create a series of platforms, open platforms, at the height of the canopy trees, in order to be able to relate with nature in a very direct way, but at the same time, create a public space for parties and events for this client, creating not only a continuous social space with covered terraces, open terraces, and in direct connection with the trees, but also this platform creates a more private and unique space for the bedrooms downstairs. Everything that you see here is thought in a way that, again, it belongs to the site. That rock in the middle of the entrance of the patio was there, and we found it when we started moving earth around to do the foundation. So nothing is brought from somewhere else in order to make it fit. It's really, most of our projects are sourced locally, are based on the site, are really attached to it, and they really feel like they belong. After a few years, it really, I mean, the pass of time, the watermarks, the rain that has been there, it's really, they start feeling like they belong to the site. This is what I was telling you about the rooms below, the picture on the right. And again, this is a completely different project, a completely different client. The first approach for this project was brought by the clients, and there's a couple that they don't have kids, and they truly belong in creating a sustainable architecture of the grid, and something that could really be an example in all senses to what sustainable architecture could be. In order to be an example, the idea was to create a place for them, but after a long conversation, they have a very nice avocado field on that land. So the first part of the project was this water reservoir, this small lake in front of the house, that is actually a place to capture water rain and make it sustainable all year long for their use and to water the avocado trees. The second decision, again, was how do we make it sustainable and feel like it's made out of the place? So we decided to work with adobe blocks made on site with local earth, by not only by the material that is sourced there, but also by the community that lives less than a kilometer away. So all the walls are made with these adobe blocks, and then we put on top all the leftover of the remains of the adobe, which is kind of a soft sand, mixed with a bit of a kind of a plaster material. So we ended up using every small little piece of adobe. And the rhythm of the apertures and the windows, everything is also, it's not just us creating a rhythm and deciding the form. It's really the result of using these wood beams that are also sourced locally, that is the maximum length that we can be able to gather on site. So the size of the openings, the rhythm of the openings, the material on the facade, even everything is honest, everything is attached to it, and everything has a reason to it. We didn't cover anything. We didn't use concrete. We didn't use nothing. It's basically, the adobe and wood structure. And completely different approach from a completely different place. This is the Pacific coast near Puerto Escondido in Mexico. These are just preliminary images. It's a project that we recently finished. It's a house to host a large family, oceanfront. Again, with the challenge of how do we do this project in an amazing site with an amazing view, without imposing anything, and more being able to create something that becomes a reference of how we can do things that belong to the site. So this is a weekend holiday home. We took seriously the approach in a way that every beachfront house got rid of the dune and left just clean sand. We kept the dune, which is this on the right. We analyzed the winds, and we decided to lift the house a few steps so you are able to capture the wind, and basically just a cross ventilation project, open back and front, the ocean front and the back, creating this wind tunnel that allows you to be basically all day long with a nice breeze. And we created this huge swimming pool in front that is not just, which is all this is not just a reflecting plane that kind of duplicates the effect of the sky and the ocean, but it also creates a microclimate in front of the house, because that water element with the breeze is really refreshing. And at the end, it's an element that becomes like superimposing, but at the same time disappears with the surroundings. And then we decided to work with Palapa, which is something that everyone locally knows how to use. We believe that this mix of contemporary architecture with local way of doing things has been a really successful way to ground the project. So it's a huge palapa from side to side. And yeah, it's again, simplicity and honesty based on belonging. This is a completely different project. It's a pavilion that was assigned to us by the Crystal Bridges Museum in Arkansas. And it was a pavilion that had to show what architecture of houses or even any space could be back and belong to a place. It was really the challenge. And the question was, can you do a pavilion that represents that? They have an amazing site full of surrounding forest. So we created an open space that dialogues between open and closed. You really don't know when you're inside or outside. We left some of the space empty in the interior so you can allow nature to grow inside. And we decided everything you can disarm this element. It's temporary, so you can take it out. So everything was made with an aluminum frame, but covered with these translucent panels that again enhance the idea of reflection, open, close. We call it infinite open. Like it's really something that we push in an architecture that we have to now more than ever connect more to the environment, even if it's urban or natural, in a way that you allow things to happen. So this is, we have an amazing set of images in the different seasons. At some point, everything was white with snow. So that's also something that could even be done in a more temporary structure. And with this, understanding the process, again, and going back to the images of, we need to bring back real connections between the users and between the people and the architecture. This is a series of pavilions we have created. All of them are not just a nice shape or a well-designed proportion. It's really more about how you activate this place. And this was done for Mextrópoli, an architectural festival in Mexico. And you're able to move around these rotating wood panels that allow people to really interact and organize themselves. And there's this guy that wants to have them all aligned, or people were just making them flat. Anyways, it was a really nice way of bringing people to architecture in a very natural way. All the people that were interacting with this piece were really people walking by, not even architects. And we were really happy to see that it was used and it was activated, and it really activated the space around it. And the whole idea, this is a wood structure, was to create a floating wood beam that will really give you this idea that represents all the values of the wood structure, which is at the same time strong but light, heavy but not heavy. So all these columns are hitting in these rotating panels that hold up this wood beam. With that, another very similar in approach but very different project. This is in Lima, in the National Art Museum, in Lima, in Peru. They gave us the decision to decide where to put an interactive piece. We decided to use the main entrance. So this is the floor plan of the main entrance of the museum. It's a steel structure made by Eiffel, super traditional and strong. So we decided to leave everything as it is and just add this series of copper tubes around the columns in order to create this idea of revolving doors. So when we created all these copper tubes, people needed to organize because otherwise you will crash to the other user. So it really created something at the very entrance of the museum where people can interact. Of course, children, which are normally more intelligent than adults, were able to even do dances and choreographies and everything around those simple copper tubes that rotate around as revolving doors. Or in a completely different project is we created this house as a response to one of the biggest earthquakes in Mexico. This is a non-profit project. We donated the project to the community. So we were, again, how do we create something that allows people to communicate, engage with the site, engage with each other? So by creating two private blocks, we allowed this in between space to be transformed in many ways. It could be a social space. Some people had put some light structure in the middle to cover it and make it a space for a community to gather. So it doesn't really matter if it's a pavilion in a museum or a house in front of the ocean or social housing responding to a tragedy. Everything could be grounded to the site and really create a sense of belonging, to the point that this is an industrial project. It's an office and laboratory space for a dairy company that sells cheese and milk, and it's on an industrial park. The idea with this project was, again, the concept of the company is sustainability, is trying to explain that even if it's an industrial building, we can do something amazing, honest and direct. So we decided to do a wood structure. It's actually the first wood structure building in Mexico in terms of everything's wood. There's no concrete or steel or anything. And it's just being honest to the idea. And even if it's on a industrial park, it's just something that it doesn't really matter. It's for us, is how do we showcase a building that, especially for all the workers, allow them to become proud of what they're doing, where they're working, in a building that showcases that, no? Honesty, functionality, straightforward materials, clean, etc. No? From that, and jumping more into hospitality, and as you mentioned, hospitality is not just hotels, it's how do we create an architecture that allows people to feel fine, whatever is a hotel or a house or an industrial building. This is actually a small hotel in Mexico City, in Polanco, which again, it was a challenge. The idea was to create a series of private rooms in a very small plot. So we created an idea of very private and intimate space. When you're in a hotel, you're sharing space with someone that might be someone strange or someone else. So all the light was brought in by a skylight in the middle with a central stairs. But again, the idea of creating a link with the user of the hotel and the space itself goes from having a sense of privacy and intimacy, but at the same time, taking care of all the details. We added the numbers with a metal plate on the floor with the numbers of the room. So it's a way of connecting in every single moment, no? From the detail of the numbers of the signage, or the indirect light in the window, or choosing the blankets, or this water feature in one of the rooms. And this is another hotel in Puerto Escondido. Again, this is the entrance. We created a circular skylight where you come from the taxi or the car or whatever, and you're in the need of fresh air, shadow, and so the entrance is very like open and closed at the same time, with an opening to the sky that allows you to refresh yourself. And then once you're in your room again, you have a sense of privacy, or this common swimming pool that is in front of the ocean. Again, that rock was found on site, so it's really, we left all the natural trees and plants in front of the land that was still there. Everything is thought to the mind, to the last detail. The floor, which is an image on the left, we took a series of tests to create a floor that you're able to be barefoot and feel fine, and not so white that you need to put your sunglasses on because it reflects, but not so that it burns your feet. So every little thing allows the project to belong and to feel that it should be there. Is another hotel in Mexico City. All of these are a response of very new ways of doing hospitality projects, are very private. We are eliminating in all of them all this idea of a typical hallway with an artificial light and a series of doors. This is the hallway of this hotel. It's natural light, natural ventilation. I mean, again, it's about taking care of all the details in a way that we can make an architecture that feels grounded to the site, very connected to the people and the users, and of course, giving a sense of belonging. With this, I want to finish with the idea that architecture for us is not about forms, it's really about an idea. And the starting point is always a text that explains in words what we want to create, and the form is just the result. And also tell everyone that our creative process, it's continuously being challenged by ourselves. And we believe that we don't need to do trends. We don't need to do an architecture that pretends to copy a style. It's really an idea that's transformed and it's challenged to the point that every couple of years, and this is absolutely true, we put all the physical models from the projects in the office and we destroy them in a way of saying we can do something better, we can challenge our ideas, and we can always try to improve. So thank you very much. Thank you again for the invitation, and happy to jump in the conversation.
Thank you so much, Pablo. That was a great presentation. I actually didn't know you guys destroyed the models. I had the chance to see a few of them, but I did not know that you destroyed them after. We'll now
Yeah, we
move
do it.
Yes, we'll now move on to the Q&A part of the webinar. So to everyone here, remember that you can send the questions through the Q&A tab. And we already have our first question here, which is, your work often engages very deeply with cultural and spatial context. When you start a hospitality or community-driven project, what's the first thing you try to understand about a place before anything else?
The first approach is the site. Literally, we travel there, we go there at night, at morning, at sunset. And second, and not least important, is how do the people connect to the sites in its natural way. Before we, as architects, arrive and create this artificial built environment. So most of our inspiration comes to understanding very basic elements. I believe that if we go back to a more primitive approach to the way we do things, the result feels a lot more grounded and natural. A very quick example is if you do a glass house with I don't know, super hot weather, you depend on an artificial system such as air conditioning. If you do something that is aligned to the site in a way that it has extra height, punctual openings, cross ventilation, then you start doing something that it could be completely contemporary, but at the same time feels that it belongs.
That's great. I think we have another question here, which is, there's often a tension in hospitality architecture between creating something that feels universal, so welcoming to anyone from anywhere in the world, and something that feels rooted in a very specific place. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's actually true. Especially nowadays, I think we are experiencing more and more generic spaces. I mean, you can be in the same hotel basically everywhere in the world. So the way we're trying to approach that is that if you're traveling, it's because you want to experience, get to know a new place, find new people, connect with a different way of living. So of course, he has to be welcoming to everyone, but at the same time, he has to have something that would only be found there. So, for example, the small hotel, which is super small, 10 rooms in Polanco, you can take a look at our website or our Instagram. The facade, Mexico City has a lot of things happening on the street. As you experience, there's like a party going on everywhere. So we created a filter, and the facade, it's a textile that is tense, that allows this see-through. So that's something that needed to be, because we're in Mexico and there's something going on the street always, and at the same time responds to any kind of client looking for privacy. So I think more and more it should be about understanding the culture of the site and try to enhance it rather than just keep on generating generic spaces based on trends or whatever.
Yes. I think the next question kind of relates a little bit to what you have been speaking about. You're now working on projects outside of Mexico, and Mexico has a very strong relationship between architecture and nature. How do you carry that with you into landscapes and climates that are so different from what shaped you?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. It has been a challenge. We made a project in Zurich, which the weather, of course, and the insulation factors, etc. We're working on 2 projects in LA, and we are almost finishing a house in Gausburg in Germany. All these weather conditions are not familiar to us, but what is familiar is understanding the site. So we are in a way using our way of doing things, which is a more like intuitive and in a more easy way, because we have an amazing way that allows us to have an opening and a moment of being in and out. And in this case, we are actually taking care and using the technology that is allowed to be used, which is, I mean, at the beginning we were, we're going to have to compel with all these whatever factors, insulation factors, and blah, blah. But again, they do have all that technology that we don't have in terms of amazing insulation windows. So in a way, it has become a good thing to, something that we at the beginning we were against it. Now is our tool to create an architecture that, and it has, especially the ones in the US, it has taken us a lot of convincing time, to be completely honest, in terms of why do we need a covered terrace and cross ventilation if we can have an full interior AC space, no? But it's really about convincing, but using, again, what the way they do things in a very clever way. So, I don't know, it's kind of, that's the way we're doing it now, yeah.
And out of curiosity, now this is a question that I have. Which countries have you guys been working on now with projects from PPAA?
Now we are with projects ongoing in the US, in Germany and Austria, Switzerland, which is, I think, the most challenging one in terms of regulations. At the same time, we have a project in Costa Rica, which is much familiar to us.
Yeah.
And of course, outside Mexico City. Mexico itself, it's a completely different, I mean, from the desert in Baja California, where we did a project in Todos Santos, and we're doing another one, to the Pacific, to Cozumel. We're finishing a project in a little island called Cozumel in front of Playa del Carmen and Cancun for a Swedish client. It's not even Mexican. So, yeah, I mean, it has become a much more global practice in the last years. In all different types of projects. We are doing a pavilion for Concéntrico, the architectural festival in La Rioja in Spain in June. We're very excited about it. So it's really not about whether we are like a global practice. It's really, even if it's a small pavilion or an office building in China that we did, it's really more about trying to decide the project in a very strong way, and not just, okay, we have a project outside, let's do it, whatever it takes. It's really about choosing the projects and trying to create in every single different condition a project that belongs in all senses. A project, I mean, there's like this idea of calling sustainable architecture. I mean, for me, sustainability is not only about ecological terms. It's really about how it makes sense. I really, we need to start doing things that are like simple in a strong way. So we normally, try to decide the projects in that way, and we force ourselves to clean them up in a way to reduce everything that is just extra, and try to walk away from trends. Even, I mean, the Mexican architecture now is having an amazing moment. There are a lot of people doing amazing things. I think it's really, and not only in terms of architecture, also in terms of food, in terms of culture. I mean, it's having a really good moment. And what I believe has making us like a bit different and has allowed us to open our practice outside Mexico is that we're not following that trend. We are, of course, being Mexicans because we can't eliminate that, but in a way that we show the way we do things in a different way. And there's a few Mexican practices that are able to do that. And I think those are like us that are trying to explore a solution that has a Mexican way of doing things behind it, or it doesn't have the sticker of made in Mexico, has allowed our practice to become much more global. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got that same feeling when I went to Mexico last year. I could sense that it has been having a great moment, and also this made in Mexico, also pride that the studios have. That's something very, very special that we could feel that going to the studios and meeting all the architects. We have another question here, which is, considering that you use architectural elements characteristic of each place, which often makes it easier to find local labor for certain techniques and solutions, how do you deal with the challenge of finding skilled professionals to execute the remaining details and finishes of the project? Does this impact the process or the fidelity of the final work to the original concept?
That's that's absolutely true. It's gonna become more challenging to find the local hand labor that knows how to do the detailing, and it's just a way of adapting the project. If we are depending 100% of the specialized whatever technique and the whole project is supported on that, then again, it doesn't make sense and it's not sustainable in any way. So what we're trying to do is, even if it's just hand labor or robotic construction, I mean, it's really trying to find a way of doing things in a particular way that really allows people to feel like it should be there. For example, the house that we're doing in it's actually the Germany, but it's the border with Austria. It's a very small town. Everything is pitch roof, typical tiles on the roof, and we were like challenging that at the beginning, trying to bring in something much more like detailed or even handmade from the way we are able to do things here. And at the end, we decided that we're pushing something that is not real for the place. So the project went completely in another direction, and now the project is about keeping that pitch roof with the same material that the whole town has, but we lifted the roof, and it's a floating roof, creating an amazing space. It's a cultural space. And in that specific project, the result of special techniques or whatever it was, using wood structure that it's something that they are very used to in Austria. They do amazing wood connections. So at the end, it's really about understanding the place. We try personally and all the team to understand the place, not only in architectural way, but really the way people live. So instead of fighting with a small town to allow us to do something that looks more contemporary, once we presented the floating roof that looks exactly the same that all the rest of the town, they were like super happy. They're actually going to the construction saying, I mean, they already like making it their own. So
Yeah, so The next question also kind of relates to that, which is looking at your work over time, is there a project where the users ended up inhabiting or appropriating the space in a way that you didn't expect? And what did that teach you?
100%, especially the house that I showed quickly that we donated for the air damage earthquakes now has a lot of like plastic elements on top. Even a house that looks like super neat for the pictures. We as architects have to understand that we should be able to design from the door handle to the space itself, and that's something we normally try to give the time to do all that. But at the same time, the architecture should be open enough to allow the user to make it their own and do whatever they want, because at the end, as I was saying at the beginning, architecture only starts when we as architects finish our work. So, of course, we have visited a few projects, especially the residential ones that they invite us after 5 years or 8 years, and they decided to change whatever. Most of the decisions might not be as nice as we think in terms of interiors or architecture, but it really makes sense and they really make the living more natural. So yeah, I sometimes wish we could have a second chance after architecture has been put into test to really understand. And a good thing that we try to do is we try to learn from our own projects after time. It's normally very like we get a lot of like reality checks, but at the same time, yeah, we allow ourselves to questions that we cannot control. The users, we don't need to control them. No? The more it responds to the way of living, the more aligned they will be. From Frank Lloyd Wright houses that even the sofa was designed to a more generic open space that allows the client to appropriate it. So yeah, it's
Yeah, that must be very interesting as an architect to see how people adapt to the space that you design, right?
yeah.
Uh, Now I have the last question because we have to wrap up to welcome our next speaker, and it is, when the world is changing so rapidly, how do you balance the sense of belonging relating to the past or present to possible futures?
What we try to do is slow down. We have to start giving time its value, not in the sense of a rush, in the sense of good things take time. And really, the way we approach it is we try and we ask for more time, even in the design process. And in a way that the world is changing so fast, I think the slowness, the whatever makes us rethink in a more direct way of how we do things, and the more we take time in that, the better the final result. Beforehand, you had a one TV program that was at 6 p.m. and people gather around the program, and now you can decide from watching a Chinese movie to watching live ping pong tournament in Singapore. No? So I really think we need to go back and understand the value of time and the value of real connections, because everything else is going to keep up going so fast. So
Great.
thank you again. We are super open to receive any type of questions, comments, emails. When someone will open the Instagram account, it's like on everyone's hand. So anything you guys need, I will be happily to respond on another occasion. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Pablo, for
Thank
the
you
great.
again for the invitation. It was
Thank,
really nice. Okay.
thank you for your time. It was great to have you join us today. Now I have to jump into our next speaker. So I will introduce our next speaker, which is Renata Furlanetto. She's the director at Studio MK27.
Bye.
Renata, bye. So, Renata graduated from FAO Mackenzie in 1997 and holds a specialization in designing time from UPC Barcelona. She joined Studio MK27 in 2001 and has since led the architecture team, coordinating some of the studio's most celebrated projects, including Patina Maldives, the Brazilian Pavilion Expo Osaka, and Ramp House. Her work has been recognized with the Europandem Award and the Young Architects Award from the IAB. Studio MK27 has long been a reference for us at Architecture Hunter. It's one of those practices whose work we keep coming back to across every scale and typology. So having Renata here to speak about hospitality and community feels very fitting because those qualities are so present in everything the studio produces. So please join me in welcoming Renata.
Well, hello, Rafaela. Thank you for the invitation. We are very happy. I'm very happy to be here to represent our office today and to speak to Run, to uh, ask you or invite you in a journey. It's something that I think that all of you may know that we are a Brazilian office based in São Paulo. Our founder is Márcio Kogan, but now we have four partners that joined the team as after so many years working together. So Diana is the interior director. I am together with Suzanne. We are the architecture directors, and then Mariana, the executive director. So we're pretty much now a woman force together besides Márcio. And as you may know, we are an office that has started almost 50 years ago mainly in this residential. We have a very strong private residences background. Of course, we came from the modernist Brazilian modernism, but our design evolved through time. Once we capture more what was our surroundings, and we could, let's say, insert these very straight lines and very, from Marcia's perspective, these very widescreen proportions that we try to keep in our designs as a main gesture, but always take into account where we are placing our buildings. So mainly what we stage our projects, they are the stage for the human life, and the scenario that surrounds the building. They are pretty much something that we take a lot into account, and the narrative of our design evolves through the interior design as well. So not only by considering how the layout should be placed from the very beginning of the project, but also picking and selecting the ID pieces, sometimes designing those ID pieces, because we have also the design as a tool from our design team, and always coordinating or making these spaces not just the extension of what we can look around the houses, but how we will place the layouts inside of it, the pieces that we will pick, and combining and the natural materiality, the textures, the architectural textures, but also the pieces or the furniture textures. They all are part of the same combination of they are parts of the same narrative. They produce something that it's not just architecture or interior design or the piece design. It's something that has a whole thinking behind it. Next one. And to be in Brazil, to be in a Brazilian and tropical forest has also marked a lot of our work. So the way that we understand this relation between the interior and the exterior, and how we take advantage of these natural surroundings to allow this nature to enter in our houses and be part of the same materiality, almost part of the same materiality of the house, and the other way around. Why we pick natural fibers and natural elements? Because we have so many inputs from what we see around us. And again, going with the same, let's say, line of thinking to the interior design. So next one. And adding layers, the selection of art pieces together that will bring identity for this specific client, or bring the soul of the client also to take charge of the space that is being designed for them. Next one. And the project and the journey that we want to invite you today, it's to a place that actually it was waiting to exist, right? It was something very important in our practice, because it was a whole island project, a hotel in an island in Maldives. So it was a kind of a crazy idea that we were not, at the first moment, we thought that we were not prepared to, but we had accepted the challenge. And we started by arriving to that place, by bringing our background and now as a luggage to set foot in this new territory, in this new locality that has this amazing, that we knew just from the pictures. So Marcia and I was looking at the dates. We went there 10 years ago for the first time. So it was sort of an amazing and very quick journey, because we had to see many hotels that the client wanted us to go. But there was a specific element of this journey that marked us very. It was a very profound mark. That was this small local villa that was not original, but was resembling the way that the local people used to use the natural resources of this place, because Maldives is actually a line of islands that are detached. There was no territory that is combined. It's a completely different setting as Brazil. That is a huge territory. Maldives is 800 kilometers of islands, and they are sort of the community. They are very local communities, and the way that they set foot in this kind of territory is using the natural materials. So you see the coral stones and the wooden structure as a roof structure. This is a very simple way of living there that is compared to what we saw as an architecture of the whole bunch of hotels that we visit, has a completely different approach of how to perceiving life in that environment. Next one. So when we came back to Brazil, we were trying to create a connection, a true connection between this new place that we are going to be occupying, but with the way that we feel that we had to contribute, what we had to contribute for this specific setting. So we use Trancoso and the Quadrado as a very strong reference. And it's a place that is in Bahia, the north part of Brazil, and has a very simple way. Now it's very trendy, has evolved, changed a lot, but originally was this very simple way of getting people together in a very simple way, of creating spaces for people to enjoy life and to interact. At the same time, the craftsmanship is a very strong element that we always try to use in our projects, because, as Pablo was saying, the time is the let's say, is the most value asset that we have nowadays. So the way that we can sit time through the craftsmanship and use natural fibers and natural materials to allow these elements and these pieces that are going to be part of our design to be combined as a part of this narrative is something that is also what we could relate to the Maldives and to the vernacular architecture. So that was the first element and that was the first strength that we want to put in the project, to bring our memories and the way that we enjoy natural life here in Brazil to the Maldives. And to set root in this new, let's say, territory that was about to occupy, it was important for us to understand what was how it was organized, right? So the island that we were designing is this island number 1, which is inside of a atoll that has 4 islands. This three the client and our client, the developer, he has an operational background as well, so he has both the developing business but also the hotel hospitality operational business. So he was combining 3 different brands, hotel brands, in 3 separated islands. But at the same time, he was very concerned of how he would capture and enhance the life of the staff that will be working and will have positions in these 3 hotels. So there is a 4th island that was also part of this development. This is the staff school island, the island number 4, where everybody who works in those 3 hotels would live. Next one. And by understanding what was our island as let's say from the program perspective, of course, that we had the hotel program to take into to handle, like the 100 keys, all the amenities, the everything that was going to be used by the guests, the hotel guests. But at the same time, we had an idea of, and it was also something that was part of this atoll and this group of islands setting, to allow a different kind of occupation, that it was not just the private and guest occupation of the hotel, but a more public area of the island that would be, let's say, organized as a small village that afterwards was called as a marina, that could have a public access separated from the hotel. So in this more public component of the island, that idea of creating a place for people to meet, and not just the guests of this particular hotel, but the other hotels guests that could meet each other, because we always relate Maldives to a honeymooners kind of guest. But actually, the idea here was to create something different, was to allow different kinds of group of people, like families or friends, to meet. And they usually don't want to be in the same island over and over. So they want some sort of different places to discover, or different experience that could be within the same island. So that's how this public and this small village was born. Next one. And to actually set foot on this island and be able to actually create our roots there, it was not a subjective idea. So if we combine all this dream with the practical side of it, how we would make this dream come true, and how we will be able to have an efficient way to occupy this territory. It was not just an architectural approach, but we had almost 40 consultants that could go into the detail and allow us to create those specific buildings that we had to combine and to organize in this territory. So next one. We had to not just design each building, but we had to design the infrastructure, how we could live in a place that is not connected to any energy net, or we had to create our infrastructure. So a huge part of the project was not just the front of house part, but always which strategies that we will need to put and to combine technically from the technical point of view to allow us to occupy this island, and how we would treat the consumption of energy, how we will combine different systems to allow this energy to be used in a more efficient way. Desalination plants that would allow us to have our own water, photovoltaic panels that would produce the energy that we had that we need to run the hotel and the other infrastructure. So everything has to. They started with a dream, but they actually we were overlaying many technical aspects to actually be able to build the whole development. Next one. So the lighting, the way that we will approach the lighting design, how we will allow this lighting to be very subtle within this natural element and natural surroundings. Next one. And mainly one of the most important ones, in my opinion, which is the landscape. How we will surround all those built elements with the nature around, how this nature will be organized, how we will circulate through within the island, everything where we are going to place all these elements. So there was a huge work with the landscape designer on the master planning of those almost more than 40 buildings that we had to place in the island. Next one. And the way that these surroundings and this natural space will be the scenario of those built elements, and therefore for the life that we will be hold in the hotel. Next one. Creating also some small spots, or which kind of discoveries or small gardens, pocket gardens, small special places we will allow people to discover also within the island. Next one. So coming back to this idea of how to allow people to meet and create these human interactions, we started designing this place of encounter that is the village and now Marina. Next one. So there would be an independent entrance, and we were moving like in the quadrado. We were kind of using this this line of buildings to create this pathway around them, and small pockets for each kind of a component. Basically, those were food and beverage components that were designed, and the way that we have decided to design them were to create for each element a specific cooking method. So the idea that came also from the operator together with us was to separate these cooking methods in small buildings and allow people to enjoy the experience of not just dining, but see how these dishes will be cooked. So each food F&B element has a show kitchen that is dedicated to showcase the cooking method of that is being used in this restaurant. And at the same time, we have as a heart of this village, the beach club. We will be more like a drink and visit and connected to the swimming pool. And we took advantage of this combination, and we brought some other elements of the hotel program, like the water sports and the kids club, that together they compose this new, let's say, setting in the island. Next one. So each of those small buildings, they were conceived by taking advantage, by embracing the function, but also they should be part of the same narrative. We didn't want to be very like Epcot Center. We wanted this materiality and this identity to be developed throughout the same palette of materials, the same palette of the shades of colors that we will be using. They could be part of the same narrative. So everything was thought in a more individual way, but also to create some identity for each building, but also take into account this whole, the more holistic view of what will be this setting of small buildings. Next one. Next one. So this is the first image that you see when we approach the island. So as much as we want, the whole architecture was speaking very low. Can we go back to the image of the island, please? So we have those two. Can we go back one slide, please? So this is the how you approach the island. We have on the left side the arrival pavilion, which is the entrance of the hotel, and at the right side we have this village with the marina, with the dedicated swimming pool. So everything is a kind of a welcoming element also for everybody who approaches the island. Next one. I don't know if there is a delay. Next one. So to start designing those small buildings, the process was not just in the as we have an interior, we were designing also the interiors. The element of having, after placing those small buildings, we enter inside of each one, designing all the layouts. Next one. We started with picking those cooking methods as, let's say, the main features for the interior design. So this is a very rough and a first image of how we were placing the tandoor oven, which is an Indian restaurant here, which is the main feature of the restaurant, and how it would be depicted, and what will be the amount of finishing layers that will be combined with this show kitchen that will be the first thing that people will see once they enter the building. Next one. And overlaying the architectural, let's say, elements and shades and materiality, we added another layer of ID elements, the fabric, the texture, the textures that we are going to see in the lamps, in the lighting lamps, and also the facade as an element here, this hollowed ceramic facade that would be the scenario for the whole the interior design. Next one. So how the strategy of how to seat people that will be sunken in a sitting area before entering, before seeing the tandoor, and those textures that we will use, different textures and shapes for the lamps, and how we will design all those lamps. All those elements were designed at the office in collaboration with different teams. So even the selection of the tableware is something that for this hospitality moment, it's part of this narrative and combines the idea and the experience. It's part of the experience and needs to be combined to the idea and to the architecture design. Next one. So this is a first plan when you see the proportion, what is the front office, which is the front of house, what people will see. But you see that you have a big element, almost 50% of the building on the back that are related to the back of house, and therefore to the operational elements that we need to include or insert in the project to make it work. and how the strategy of the food and beverage operation will be set within the whole island, and that therefore will be related to the strategy of supplying this specific restaurant. So all those layers, the technical layers, they are combined together. Next one. So many, many layers of technical information from the kitchen consultant to the meal work, shop drawings to the technical, the MEP that we need to have for the building and connected to the other buildings, how we would allow the supplies to reach the restaurant. Everything is combined in the final design of this building. Next one, even being such a small building, right? Next one. And overlaying to this group of consultants, very extent group of consultants, we hold some workshops inside the office with different designers. This is Norm Architects from Denmark, who also collaborated with us designing, let's say, other pieces that will be part of the same, of different places. So this is a family of lamps that we had designed for different places at the restaurants, combining the technical information that was brought by the lighting consultant. So the amount of information, half the light, the lamp source will be connected to the aesthetical element that we wanted to create. So this is a very specific design, very technical design to create this piece. Next one. Combined with the shades, with these natural textures and fibers that we were bringing from that more tactile layer that we also wanted to compose every piece. So all the pieces, they had come through this level of details from the first master planning through the object design. And this is the result of this space that has all those layers combined. So the final built space where we have a very simple action, human action, that is to eat, to dine, but with so many other experience and inputs that the design can bring to this very, let's say, simple action of eating, but in a very, very taken care way, and to allow people to have a nice experience. So being connected to the space, but also being captured by a different experience, right? Next one. And from the residential components, how we would stay at the hotel, now going back a little bit to the hospitality component and to the housing. Next one, we had two different kinds of villas, the one set on within the island and the one set on over the water. Next one, that in the first moment, Marcel and I, we were discussing who would be willing to stay over the water if it's so nice to be around the natural life. But this is a layer of this territory. It's a very specific condition of Maldives that you have shallow waters so close to the beach. In Brazil, we look at the beach and at the ocean from the beach, from the territory. In Maldives, because of these shallow waters, we are very close to the water, so we can have your ocean as your backyard. So from one perspective is to insert the architecture in this more natural environment. So the whole strategy was to be very subtle and to be able to allow this villa to be completely open to the nature. Next one. So from the plan perspective, it's a very straightforward organization. We have the bedroom completely facing the view and having these three sides of glazing panels, but we wrapped this glazing panel, this open space with a filter a natural filter, light filter, which is the facade, the stick facade. Next one. So despite of being in a very open space, you have two grades of openings. One that is completely open and directs your view to the exterior. And on the sides, you have this privacy screen that would allow the light to enter, to filter the light, and to make the light be also part of the space and evolve throughout the day. Next one. So the design of the pieces, the way that we are coming from this more Brazilian way to enjoy life in a more relaxed way was something that has a lot to do with the way that the client was envisioning the hospitality experience, the way how the small pockets of furniture is introduced in the space to create moments in life, like the moment that you will be having your drink, the moment that you will be sunbathing. Every special place is planned in a hospitality element to allow people to have different moments and to enjoy different moments throughout the day. Next one. The water villa was in a first moment for us a little bit awkward place, but to be honest, it's a very nice and unexpected way to be in nature because you have your ocean as your backyard, so you are able to go down from your own villa to the sea and swim. So it's almost like being in a boat in a way, but at the same time being so, private and being so connected to this amazing and sort of overwhelming nature, right? Next one. And the other spaces throughout the island, the ones that we had to include, they were part of the program. So how we would make this life extend the villa, right? So pathways that would connect different portions of the island. This is the pool house, the main building, let's say. We split the dining areas in three different elements as well and create a portico in the middle for a meeting space. The pool that is almost um, over the water. Next one. So many elements again that were combining this narrative and those pathways and those moments for the guest to enjoy the hotel and the island. Next one. The spa, so we split the treatment rooms in different small elements and created this connection between the main building of the spa and the treatment room. So there's again a way to allow people to walk through. Next one. And also combining some exterior spaces that were not all completely open to sky, but also secluded through those privacy screens that are our facade elements, made in different shapes and different shades. And this, again, this idea of allowing people to move and directing those pathways, creating those moments of waiting, of moving, of getting there, of living. Next one. And for me, it's the cherry pie. That apart from all those different elements, we were the client invited James Turrell, this American artist, to make a site-specific piece, one of his sky spaces, in the island. So we designed the whole thing because we wanted to be at the village, so therefore accessed by the public, not just by the guests. We designed, it was part of the village in a way, so we wanted to make the design of the space, but we had to be very, so it was another collaboration with him by trying to understand how we could translate this very subtle emotion of just next one looking at the sky with a very, this is a Turrell sketch, how we would control exactly the proportions of the building and how we would allow people to perceive the experience of the piece in a very focused and this, decided very it was a very clear decision from the artist point of view how he would create that. And the idea of creating this space was also something that we wanted to be very simple. So the facade, it's just the facade is the structural element that holds the roof. So a very simple architectural gesture. And to combine those two ideas. And at the end, so after this full this whole journey, we had almost more than 4,000 files, so a lot of emissions of different kinds of designs and a lot of digital information that were actually the starting point for those buildings and this new locality to exist. Next one. And I just want to finalize with something that I was thinking, that I've been thinking a lot, why we do what we do. So what is the essence of our work? So we had the opportunity to go because the project was built during the pandemic. So we were not there during the final, the end of the construction ending. So after that, the client invited us, Marcio, Diana, and I, to go and to stay at the hotel. So next one. So it was a moment for us to actually experience what we had dreamed for for such a long time, right? So again, how we as humans could relate again to the same spaces that was at what point one point just inside of our heads, how we could relate to this new existing place. So a part of this very strong and tough process, we could relate again as humans to what we were designing. So this is just a phrase from Walter Ugumãe, a Portuguese writer and poet, that says a lot of what the architects, we as architects, I think, live. Things never lived have a name. They are, but they may be waiting. So sometimes we are the ones that could bring things to life. So this is actually what we do, why we do, what we love about being architects. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renata. That was a really thoughtful presentation, as every presentation the studio always does. And I think the Patina Maldives Hotel is now on everyone's bucket list of hotels to go. And now we'll jump into the Q&A part of the session. So I'd just like to remind everyone that you can send the questions here in the Q&A tab. So we already have a first one. When you're designing for hospitality at an international level for guests who come from completely different backgrounds and cultures, how do you create a sense of belonging without erasing the specificity of the place?
I think that's the whole point, not to erase it, right? Is to actually allow the place to enter your line of thinking or being, surrounded by that atmosphere that could that actually happens in different layers. It's a community. It's the way that people use the space or live there. It's the way sometimes in these situations a more isolated location, but some in different situations we are in a very urban location. So which which are the experience that the people that will pick this specific hotel, even if it's a brand that they are used to 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 going, why they will pick this specific development or this specific property? They need to have an identity. And this identity, the identity is also is part of many elements, of course, that we will bring our soul and our design language, but it has to do a lot with what is surrounding it, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It doesn't actually is the reason for of why you are picking this one and not that one. So you want to experience the place. So this is very much important. This is very important, in my opinion, to set the right tone of the design.
Great. And we have another question here. What do you think is the most underrated element in hospitality architecture? Something that makes all the difference in how people experience a space, but that rarely gets talked about.
Underrated, I don't know. Sometimes it's different because everyone is looking for a different element,
Yeah.
right? Or paying attention to different things. What I think I think the attention of the details and how you control the elements that sometimes people that are not so technically that are not architects, they don't actually understand, but they feel how things they come up in the right positions, how things are very well. I don't think that they are underrated in the sense that they don't have sometimes a name, but you feel them, right? And you feel that design. But with a good design, actually controls all these elements in a very subtle way sometimes. And this is sometimes when you have the more consistent experience. And sometimes you don't know how to explain them, but you just feel it. So I think this is something that things that you cannot name, I think, are the most underrated ones, but eventually the most important ones.
That makes a lot of sense. Talking about the hotel now, the Patina Maldives. The hotel is such a unique context. You're working on an island surrounded by one of the most fragile ecosystems in the world. What was the biggest challenge of designing there, and how did a commitment to preserving the natural environment shape the architecture?
It's a very important question. The main thing about being in an isolated setting, especially in Maldives, is that you have to bring everything to the site. So there is a lot, I think, how to control the construction period is very much related to which kind of structural system we are going to pick. For the villas, we picked a CLT, a mixed structural system between metallic and CLT slabs that were mainly produced in a factory somewhere else and brought to the island just to be assembled there. So it was a very dry construction site. We tried to reduce the waste as much as possible, so everything was brought to be assembled there. Even the mill work, there was no very small portions, just the foundations. They were meant to be done there, but everything else was meant to be just assembled. And the way that we planned the construction of each water villa, for instance, was very carefully designed to allow the path where the machines were passing through to be very reduced. So every small attention to this sort of detail was taken into account to design and to plan the construction in a way to protect the environment, which is the main asset of the hotel. So it's something that was meant to be um, taken care of. And the MEP and the technical, let's say, systems to allow us to produce our own energy, our own water, to reduce waste, to reduce uh, um, energy, the spent of energy. Everything was thought in a more, let's say, strategical way to allow these consumptions and this to be reduced as much as possible.
Yeah, I imagine it must be very challenging working on an island. And relating to that, we have a question. What did this project, the Patina Maldives, teach the studio that no other could never teach? No other project.
I think we were a very small office for this size of project by that time. We were more we were divided in a way, organized in a way that we were relating to the scale of the projects in smaller teams, groups, and suddenly this project took most 50% of the team. So if you're not working at the project, you were working something else that the people that were supposed to be working, they could not work because they were working on the project. So everybody had to relate to the project and were affected by the project. And we were very much it was when we were, especially the relation between interior and architecture, that during a private house can be slowered in the process. In a hospitality moment, that almost they need to happen at the same time. So everything, this relation and this friction between AD and ID team was very much, we had to work as one, really. So it was a moment of a lot of learning through the process point of view. We had to create new processes. We had to be more efficient. And there were the Revit families, the documentation that we had to produce was something that we had to put up in a very quick and efficient way. So a lot of work and a lot of documentations that had to be controlled by us to be completely sure that what we were designing was going to be built. So mainly that was, I think, was from the process perspective, the most challenging moment for us, and how to control the site from such a distant place.
Yes.
So WhatsApp was a thing. We were working like 24/7, because as we were sleeping here, the guys were working there during the night. So it was almost like a never-ending uh, process. It was very intense, but we have grown a lot since
Yeah,
then.
I can imagine. We have a question about the program of the hotel. So, who developed the program requirements for this project? Was this completely a request from the client, or was it like a joint conversation between the client and you guys?
The hotel program was very much set because it's usually when we receive a hotel program, it's based on a market standpoint. They decide how many keys, how many people how the operation will work. The operation is a very particular system of how to operate a hotel that comes from the everyone has a different way to do it. So this is something very specific that the client as an operator brought. But the idea of the village and how to separate, to go beyond the hospitality element, the hotel element was something that we had worked together because we didn't know exactly, the client didn't know exactly what this could mean. So the architecture was, from our point of view and his point of view, we were combining those visions to finalize what would be the final setting because it was a process, right?
Good. And now we have a question not related to the hotel, but more broader question. When you design such open and high spaces, how do you address the challenges of maintenance, cleaning, and damages of building over ages? Because this comes as a crucial component when discussed with the clients. Please do share if you have any plan or strategy used during the design process.
I don't know if we have here, but all the details, they are behind a very simple and minimalistic architecture. There is a huge amount of control. So the way that if you see, I don't know if you see the facade, the fascia of the villa, for instance, uh, it was not attached to the roof. The element that you see as a fascia, it's detached from the structure to allow the water from the roof to run behind it. So therefore, we wouldn't be seeing this stain of the water over time. The facade was made in a very natural element, like the sticks, wooden sticks, because we were foreseeing that it would get grayer over the years. So it was not a very, it was engineered from the assembly point of view. So we had a profile on the bottom and on the top that would detach the wood from the sand and therefore from humidity. So we would make them, and the vertical slats has a very important, it's a very important strategy to allow water to run through the facade in a quick way instead of having them horizontal where the water could be staying and therefore damaging the wood. So there are many design strategies that you can pick from that would allow, and with experience, you will learn because you don't know from the beginning the best practice, especially in a very in this kind of environment, so close to the sea. So all the elements, the metallic elements, they are stainless steel, a very specific kind of stainless steel that doesn't rust very quickly. The even the wooden material that you perceive as wood, it's a let's say it's an engineered wood that has a specific production time will that would not stain over the time. So we were not using as much as we wanted to use natural, very natural materials in everywhere. At some points we couldn't because they will get damaged very quickly. And actually, we were very successful in this view, in this because that was our main concern during the choice, making the right choices to allow the maintenance to be as less as possible and to make the building be beautiful for a longer time because we knew that we were in a very hostile environment. But we were successful at the end because this materiality, if you go to the hotel now, it's pretty much the same as it was in the beginning. So plus the landscape that is much nicer now.
Yes.
That was the one who took over, right?
Mhm.
So it's a detailing process, and it's a very close development with the contractors because
Mhm.
we need to have their inputs. Sometimes we make different decisions through their experience, and as Pablo was saying, we change the design. Sometimes we want some things to happen that the general contractor tells us, look, this is not going to work. Especially if you are prototyping different designs, right? If you're trying different ways of making things, eventually we need someone who has more experience than you to say, no, let's go for this way around, so you can eventually adapt your design to uh, a better situation of better maintenance and standpoint.
We have another question here also about the hotel. From brief to the final execution, what's the process like and the time duration taken in the whole project?
That's a tricky question. I think the design process took almost 4 years. So from the first time that we went to Maldives and through, because there is a lot of the conceptual moment, it's very tricky because we go back and forth until we find some. It's a very specific approach to make a design that works from the operational point of view in a setting, in such a big setting, let's say as an island. We designed the back of house as well. So to understand how the back of house will be organized in an island condition was also something new for the operator. So many inputs they were coming throughout the process, and we had to reorganize buildings and settings and everything many times. So it's a huge process that it evolves. But as those layers of knowledge and information, we receive those layers, we are able to escalate the design and make more smarter choices. So we don't know, it's not feasible to think that it's not will take time. It
Mhm.
needs the time to evolve. It's impossible. So you have to be patient, and that's it. But the construction, I think it was more faster actually than we were expecting. 1 year and a half, almost 18 months, if I'm not mistaken. Very quick
Mhm.
for this kind of setting, and because the buildings they were more prefabricated, so they were more the longer time was the fit out, which is the interiors and millwork assembly.
Mhm. I think now we have to wrap up, but I have a last question here from a student in the audience. For someone who dreams of working on a large-scale international projects or joining a studio like Studio MK27, what qualities do you actually look for when hiring? What makes someone stand out?
We, I think I was talking to someone this week about it. I think we want a person who can evolve with us because our work is not it flows from a very subjective dimension to a very objective dimension, and to be able to flow and to have this way of perceiving the world. So being able to design and nice, beautiful things that will have to work and eventually be built demands a more subjective
Mhm.
skill of pursuing what is around you, but a more objective skill of learning, technically speaking, how to build your dream. So what we don't separate creation from development. We don't have different teams to do different kind of things because we believe that the, the architect should be a whole, should be
Mhm.
someone that could perceive those two. Of course, that they are not going to be, nobody is good in everything. So there will be something that you will shine and will be very easy for you. But
Mhm.
working together with a team of very intelligent people, you work from one another. So what you're not so good at, someone from your team will be, so you can learn from them. And this is how we understand that we can evolve as a
Mhm.
team, as individuals. So not we don't stop learning. I
Mhm.
think this is the and being you know hungry for this development. I think for this evolution. I think this is the most important things, to be avid to knowledge, right? To be
Mhm.
hungry to knowledge.
That's great advice for everyone looking for working in studio. Thank you, Renata, for your time and for the conversation and presentation. It was great to have you here with
Thank
us
you.
today. Also, thank
Thank
you,
you for the
Pablo.
opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you, Pablo, for everything you shared with us in the first half of today's session. I also want to thank everyone who joined us today and sent in the questions. Your engagement really makes this conversation richer. This month's theme felt especially alive in both of these talks. It's a reminder that the most meaningful architecture isn't just about form or function, it's about the experience of arriving somewhere and feeling welcome. We hope to see you again next month for another session. In the meantime, keep following Architecture Hunter for more content and don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all and see you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.